we continue with a presentation from Waze. Anyone not heard of Waze in the audience? Okay. Is a social navigation platform that leverages mobile technology and passion of people on the road to help each other save time, money, and stress by sharing the traffic updates. An interesting thing about Waze is it was founded in 2008, and it has joined a consortium, a proper consortium, the Smart Device Link, that is one of the sources where Waze get their information from. And it will be a keynote from shmuelevitz, who is a veteran in two ways. Number one is he has 25 years of experience in technology. And number two is he is the employee number one of Waze, yeah, which is very special. Please welcome Ferj on board. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Okay, so my name is Ferj, and as was told, I joined Waze a long time ago. I'm going to go over a bit about Waze and carpooling in general. And let's just start with what is Waze. So just to make sure that everyone is aligned, Waze is a social navigation application that enables you to drive in the best routes that are possible and have most of the information that's possible along the way so that you can navigate through the various issues of traffic and events. So you have the traffic, you have the real-time alerts, you have the ability to send the estimated time of arrival and get notification of the best time to leave for a meeting. And of course, you can be on your way to a specific place which we recognize, and then you will get automatically routed. But that's Waze. We are looking to solve the problem beyond just traffic. Today, Waze is very good at routing various cars in different routes, and by that, reducing the congestion by a bit, because we use the network of roads in a much better way. But what we see is that there is a need for a more kind of drastic approach, and that is why we are looking to introduce carpool. The transportation industry is being transformed. So if today there is cars that are driven manually, in the long term they will be autonomous. If today you own a car, tomorrow you will actually use it as a service. And so over the next couple of years, there are a lot of services that are going to help in transforming the regular car usage to the more advanced, I would say, autonomous car ready. As you can see, there's Waze, Zipcar, Lyft, Uberpool, etc. They are all looking to solve a problem, and we think because we are aware of the drivers, we know the routes, and we have the ability to get you from point A to B, that we can help with the carpool and do the best matching to reduce the number of cars on the road. So the question is really who is going to be able to deliver most of the drives and who can provide most of the drivers so that they can pick up the passengers. And this is basically what you see here in the GIF. Is the idea is that instead of a driver driving alone, he will have a companion, he will have a rider with him, so that theoretically we can reduce the amount of cars on the road by a significant amount of several tens of percentages. Obviously, this is a process. There is a matter of educating the crowd and the users as to the ability to get a ride or provide a ride. But we believe this is probably one of the only ways to drastically change the way traffic is happening. If we look in the US, you can see the numbers here. You can see that people commute for an hour. You can see that 100 million people are driving alone. Definitely, there is a lot of basis to introduce the change. So I'm not sure that we can get up to 50%, which is almost the optimum. But again, as I said, several tens of percentages will be enough to really reduce the congestion by a significant amount and make travel a bit more bearable. Obviously, there's also the business side here. This is a very big business. And so we are looking to be able to provide the service and, of course, maintain it by being able to sustain it monetarily. If we look at Waze specifically, you can see that we have several advantages. Obviously, we know where the drivers are. We know their habits. We know usually home and work. And we have the data, of course, to collaborate it beyond those routes. Obviously, we have the infrastructure to provide the ability to calculate routing for pickup, provide estimated time of arrival for passengers and riders. And of course, we have Waze as a brand, which is something that's recognized, and I think we overall proved the service a long time. And so we can, with the carpool, provide an additional functionality that will be integrated seamlessly into the Waze application. The main challenge is actually balancing between the drivers and the riders, whereas they have a bit of a conflicting need. Obviously, price is one issue. The driver wants to receive more. The rider wants to pay less. Obviously, the rider wants to be picked up from his home as close as possible, whereas the rider wants a minimum detour. And this is the technological challenge that we are trying to resolve. This is why we are now in beta, and we're experimenting to find this balance and understand the behavior of riders and drivers when they need to commute together. So obviously with the drivers, we are well accustomed, but we are now kind of learning the behavior of the riders, because at the end of the day, a lot of the drivers may become riders in the next phase when the autonomous car is being introduced. So how does it work? Basically, if you want to provide a ride, you use the Waze app, you sign in, and then you get ride requests, which you can accept or reject depending on your time frame and plans. Obviously, once you do connect, then you can communicate through the Waze servers to the riders. And of course, then when you drive, both the rider and driver can see one another so that they know where to pick up. One of the issues that we're looking into is experimenting with various pickup points to make it simpler, so that perhaps the rider will have to walk a bit, but the driver will be able to pick him up from a convenient location along his route. If we are looking at the rider side, obviously the rider has his plans usually well in advance. He will then indicate the time that he wants to go, the date, usually with a certain time frame, so that the driver can accommodate himself accordingly. And then he will input the data, input the various parameters for the ride. He will see the price, and then hopefully it will be a reasonable price both for him and the driver. This is something that we are actually looking to enhance, in a sense that we will let the drivers and riders sometime in the future to control the price. There are all kind of ideas as to how that will be done, but the idea is really to reach an equilibrium to resolve that gap that might sometime occur. And then you can see the rides planned. Obviously, the driver can also select a certain ride to accept, and at the end of the day, once the matching is done, both sides receive the information. We just introduced this week the ability to collect multiple riders. So today it's not only filling one seat in the car, but actually trying to fill in more seats. This is something that's very interesting in some countries where they have high occupancy vehicle lanes, special lanes that you can drive when you have more than just the driver. So US, this is very common. If you have another rider or you have another two riders, you then are able to navigate through these lanes during rush hour. And of course, then your trip is going to be decreased by a large amount. So there are certain places where people are standing near the highway and drivers pick them up just so they can use these lanes and get to the destination faster. This is something that we're starting with one rider, but at the end of the day, if a driver can take multiple riders, that will probably be the best. So the basic rules that we set for ourselves, so that this is something that is really geared toward carpooling and is not seen as a business, which is where sometimes there's a gray line and there is fear of, is this competing with the traditional public transportation. The way we did it is that we had a limit of 2 drives a day. So a driver can do 2 trips. We are aiming, of course, of home to work and work to home. And in that manner, he can get a very limited amount per day. It is something that is usually geared toward a drive that would have happened in any case, because people have to get to work. And the idea is really to combat the traffic in time of congestion, but again, not make it a business. So this is, not Uber in any way, and not something that should have any, I would say, negative or competitive effect with public transportation. Really, the idea is not for profit. And we hope that people that are used to Waze will sign in using the Waze application, and that the riders will use our new application. It was called Waze Rider, now it's called Waze Carpool, and will slowly try to test the service and adapt it as possible. Just to give some interesting feedbacks, so what you see on it is left side, we already have a rider that used Waze Carpool over 300 times. This is someone that I would say on a daily basis is commuting using Carpool. He does not have a car, he does not plan to buy a car, and so this is something that, from him is a game changer. He now has the ability to travel without being too long on the road, because usually alternatives are either more costly or take more time. And we have other people that are, over 100 times use the app. And this is the idea, to really have this as something that is kind of reoccurring on a daily basis. Another 2 example is that you can see on the, again, left side, you can see that, people are really open towards this, and this is an Audi in this case that was, used for carpooling, and the idea is really that this is, something that you do out of, I would say, not only a need, but something that you want to contribute to society, make it greener, have, the ability to help other people around you. And so it doesn't matter what type of car you have. If you get and agree to the concept, you can do it, whether you are very wealthy or whether you are not that very wealthy. And of course, we have all kind of events where the riders and drivers made cakes to one another. We actually, this was one of the Waze cupcakes that was provided by one of our drivers. And this kind of community behavior is exactly the essence of the way we see Waze and the way we see Carpool. Waze is built on community of users, on the trust between one another. And the idea is that if we manage to do it between drivers, one to another, reporting events, helping one another on the road, we can now have a new community, a community of riders that will link in with the community of the drivers and together achieve this, I would say, revolutionary, if I may say so, a method to really decrease cars on the road. We know that others have tried it. We know there are other solutions. We are approaching it from a different angle. And I think that at the end of the day, if we succeed and also the others succeed, this is something that will definitely, change the way traffic is performing on the road. And that was it. It doesn't go to the next slide, but thank you very much.